And the hits just keep coming.
Cool.
Hello.
Hi. Oh,
How are you?
jeez. I am amazed. We've got 14 people now.
All right.
Quite a crowd here. So we need to talk about Wumpus. The big question here: how many people have actually tried working on a story world? That is, actually messing around with the existing one, trying to change it, add new encounters to it, alter the various inclination equations.
I tried making a story world of my own a little bit. I didn't get that far, though.
Okay. Anybody else?
A few small changes just to see the text. Then I opened up the XML in a text editor and have a look.
Yeah.
But I didn't make anything new.
Okay.
I still haven't found the time, but...
Yeah, it's early days yet.
I tried playing around with it by fiddling with the XML file and just trying out the different sliders and trying to see how it works.
Yeah.
And also try to kind of mod the world, current story world, so I could create my own story kind of world.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for. The issue here is, first, let me just ask you a general question. Do you think Wumpus is a worthwhile tool? That is, just based on what little you know right now, how willing are you to dedicate a lot of time to continuing to learn about it? Could I just get answers in chat? Let's do it this way. Right now, I mean, your time is limited. It's an investment. You have to decide how many hours you're willing to invest in further exploring this tool. So I'm going to ask each of you to type into the chat text area how many hours you plan to invest in further investigations of this tool. Whoa, okay, that's a lot of hours, 42.
That's sure. Over the coming months, though.
Okay, you sure I can't talk you into 43?
Well, I gave 42 because that's from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
42 is the answer.
Indeed.
Yeah. As much as you offer during class times, so how often is that? Well, the meetings, there are 4 meetings a month, each one 1 hour. And the purpose of these is to get feedback on the tool and determine whether to, whether and how to proceed on it. If this goes swimmingly and everybody's terribly excited, then, we can put together a team to, rewrite the software and make it, add all sorts of lovely features with dancing girls and so forth. And then we can, make it much better. I do intend, one big question for me is whether we'll, in effect, go public. That is, so far, only a select few people are aware of this. I have not announced it on Facebook or anywhere else, or my website for that matter. And I can do this, but I think that I'm holding off until early December to see what your reactions are. If you guys end up saying, well, it's nice, then, there's no need to drag other people into it. Okay, Lorenzo's idea, the co-development, shared screen, and so forth, that's something we will do if we get enough positive support to suggest that it is worth people's time to form a team. We don't want to say, oh, let's go build a team and then have it kind of fizzle out. So we want to see how much excitement there is. Yes, Tomas makes a very good point. We really shouldn't go public until we have at least a couple of story worlds that are worth it. Now, here is one thought I have. I have been working on an Arthurian story world for more than a year now, using the encounter system. My version uses a slightly different encounter tool. One big difference is that it includes a picture on each encounter, a small picture. I think it's 256 by 256. But there was another major obstacle that conflicts with the current version of Wumpus. But the thought I have, my plan is, if Wumpus doesn't really light a fire, then what I need to do is concentrate my time on Le Mort d'Arthur, and then when it's done, then maybe people will be interested in Wumpus. So the question for the group is, right now, do you think I should just leave Wumpus, stop working on Wumpus, and instead concentrate on Le Mort d'Arthur, the Arthurian? Okay, Le Mort d'Arthur will not be ready for a long time.
How long?
It's big.
Yes.
It's, oh geez, I'm guessing perhaps a year. I mean, there are
Is it a similar engine?
Pardon?
Is it a similar engine behind that?
Yes, yes. It's basically using the encounter editor, and it is very similar. There was one thing in it, though. I was hoping, well, maybe I can just move it over to Wumpus, or, you know, move the two together. But I found one stupid thing in it, that a feature that I'm using in the custom encounter editor that does not translate easily over to Wumpus. And now I can't remember it, but I might be able to come up with a solution to that.
Is that with your guidance, anyone can code Wumpus, right?
Yeah.
But only you can create the storyboard of Le Mort d'Arthur.
That's a good point.
That kind of, you know, that kind of points to a direction where we, you know, we use your expertise to build our own version of Wumpus, however long it takes, right?
Yeah.
And you keep working on Le Mort d'Arthur because that's something that only you can do, right?
That's a good point. Right now, though, I don't think that the group is ready to take on Wumpus, because right now nobody really knows what it is or what it's for or how you use it. This is one point I've really hammered away at. We really can't start building advancing the tool until we've built. The only people who can advance the tool are people who have built story worlds. We definitely don't want somebody who's never built a story world coming in and saying, well, this is how the tool should be. You don't know what a tool is until you've actually used it. And yet very few people have actually used it for much. So perhaps what we need to do is establish a principle that we're just going to mess around with Wumpus on a low-key scale. That is, a number of people are saying, you know, a few hours a week. Perhaps the thing to do is to just schedule a few months of people just kind of messing around with it, developing some experience with it. And then in a few months, we say, all right, we've got a core of people who've played with it, who understand its strengths and weaknesses, and let's put that core together into a team and they can start running with Wumpus. How does that sound?
Yeah.
That sounds lovely, actually. Yes.
I don't know. I have a feeling that we should act like if we had only 2 more weeks until we could work only 2 more weeks on this project and do whatever we can do to make a small scene of a story world that we could play and make feedback on this scene. And this way we can know directly by investing quite a bit of time in a short period of time, like let's say a weekend, for example. Over a weekend we spend, let's say, 6 hours per person on it. And this way we can know quickly if it's worth the time, and we don't delay all of our work in a very long period of time, because for example, for now we are, I don't know, 10 people, 12 people, and in 6 months, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, the times are really uncertain. So if we have a synergy, and we are all interested in this kind of idea, making a project, a story world, should make something that shows that what we can do in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks or even a weekend, and put a lot of effort in it. And if something comes out, that means the project is a good idea. If it's so-so, maybe it's because we need to reconsider. And if it doesn't work at all, if we can't do anything in 2 days, maybe it's because we need to reconsider more things. But I think,
Go ahead, Lorenzo.
I think like by putting a joint effort where we can all think, and that's why I was talking about co-development, because we talk about a project and we work on it not as a group, and we use our group ideas and synergy. This way we can have a lot of cool practical ideas and make a small scene in the story, or like the bar scene we did the bar scene, the bar fight, and we all tried something in a week, and there was a small synergy of people trying to work and make this small project.
Well, first, let me caution you on one problem regarding the team working together. I'm going to ask each of you in turn to tell me what time it is where you are. Tomas?
Right now, it's 13:17. It's 1 and...
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Here, it's 8:17. John McKeon?
It's 4:15 in the afternoon.
Lorenzo?
It's 5:15 in the afternoon.
Okay. Johannes?
It's 4:15.
Okay. Yeah. Ivan?
5:15.
Okay. Yin? Is it midnight there?
No. Sorry. 17:17.
Scott?
I'm in your time zone, 8:17 a.m.
Oh, hooray. And Sasha?
It's 10:18.
Okay. Billy?
11:17.
Okay. Max?
5 p.m. 5:17.
Okay. Douglas?
Douglas is 8 for Douglas, the same time zone as you.
Okay. Cornell?
5:20.
So you can see we're spread out quite a bit over the time zones, and that's going to make simultaneous cooperation very difficult, because the time that's good for one person is going to be bad for other people. So, okay.
That's six people with 1 hour difference.
Yeah, that's true.
And three people on the PST time zone.
Yes, and so it might be possible to set up, smaller working groups in similar time zones, but then different people have different amounts of time they can do. They can commit. We've got people who said, well, only a couple hours a week. So this is gonna, my guess is we're gonna have to take this slowly and with great deliberation. And I suspect we'll need to do initial coordination through the Thaddeus website. because that allows that we don't have a problem with the time differences, and there aren't so many of us that a big group can come together to work. So I'm going to suggest for the time being, we keep it to Thaddeus. Well, the problem remains talking about the story worlds. And so my suggestion or recommendation is that for the month of November, we just talk about how do you build this in Wumpus? You know, gee, I'm trying to get these formulae balanced, and I don't understand how you do that kind of thing. And then we talk about it. So my guess is that's the best way to do that. One fellow, I think Johannes, you had asked a number of questions like that, and I gave you short answers. But we can go into that in greater depth as you get more experience. So that's one possibility. Other thoughts, ideas?
Yeah, I wanted to add a quick comment about the whole 2 weeks thing. Basically, I think that story worlds in this style probably need to be fairly long. At least like a playthrough needs to be fairly long. And the reason is the whole idea is that you're giving players a whole bunch of opportunities to make very small decisions rather than a handful of opportunities to make big ones.
And it's important to note that is central to the design of this system, that the drama does not proceed by, well, first I'm going to save the princess, and then I'm going to save humanity, and then I'm going to save the world. You know, you take a whole bunch of tiny decisions, and that does require long story worlds, and that's what I have with Le Mort d'Arthur. But let me float another idea then. What if I spend a month or so integrating Le Mort d'Arthur and Wumpus so that Le Mort d'Arthur can be edited with an expanded version of Wumpus, and I do a little cleanup on Le Mort d'Arthur, and then at some point I release it to you guys, and then we start discussing Le Mort d'Arthur. Now, the good thing about this is that gives you a real idea of what a story world should look like. The bad news is it's big, and it'll take you a long time to go through everything. I mean, just playing it will take you a long time. So, is that biting off more than we can chew?
Yeah. How many encounters do you have in the story world?
I think there are at least 100. Probably more like 200.
But Chris, eventually you will have to move even if you finish the Mort d'Arthur, eventually I think that you will have to or migrate it to Wumpus or to do an extended version of Wumpus. So maybe, as you said, this could be a big deal. While you migrate the Le Mort d'Arthur into Wumpus, the rest of us could be playing around and playing more around with the Wumpus tool. So in this month, maybe this way we can do an extra effort and try to build a story world. I don't know, it's an idea.
Okay, well, let me ask this question of the group. Is the existing demo, the guy meets girl, is that good enough, or is it just, this isn't enough to really help me understand what this technology does?
I think it helps me understand your design, because I was still thinking in terms of the kind of interactive fiction I've played, and your design was surprisingly a bit more linear in the rom-com story world than I expected, at least in terms of the events.
Yeah.
And so it did help. I'm not sure that the writing, I don't know, it was a little bit left field in some of the endings and the jokes and such, but as far as a tech demo, it worked all right, I think.
Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead.
I think it's fine that there's even with the small rom-com demo, I haven't got my head around. I don't really understand some of the things yet. I need to read the guide better. But for example, where it's got a reaction to trait 1 and trait 2, I don't understand. Is that one of those traits for one of the characters and one for the other?
No. Those are for one character. Those are for the reacting character. That is,
okay.
The player is the protagonist. The player has some options. The player chooses an option, and then for that particular option, the other character, whom we call the antagonist, is going to have their reaction. And what will they base their reaction on? Well, they'll base it on a combination of 2 personality factors.
Right.
And they can be either intrinsic or perceived. That is, usually perceived is the most common. In other words, if the reacting character, we might look at how bad good the character is. A nice person might lean this way, and a bad person might lean that way. But more often we take into account how that reacting person feels about the protagonist. That is, whether he likes the protagonist or dislikes the protagonist. And so that would be P bad good, whereas the first case would be just plain bad good. And then there's trust and lack of trust and timid, dominant, and so forth. But those are definitely the traits of the reacting actor, not the protagonist.
That's helpful. It's always 2, is it? Always 2 traits of the reacting actor.
Yeah. The idea is you get 2 traits, and you just decide to what degree you're going to combine them. Do you want it to be mostly this or mostly that, or an even balance? That's what that slider is for. The slider sets this ratio. Let's see. So Max had asked the question, can you get something done with a very tiny story world? And I'll answer that one with just no, because the whole point of this is that these decisions, you don't want to give the player decisions like, do you do the right thing or the wrong thing? If you do the right thing, you win. If you do the wrong thing, you lose. That's how games work. You either kill the monster or you don't. Whereas in this type of thing, we're talking about a long series of small decisions that accumulate into a final result. Again, think in terms of a story. Yes, there is a climax where the key character makes the big decision. Let's talk about the original Star Wars. Luke Skywalker blows up the Death Star. And how does he do it? He trusts the Force. And that's what permits him to do it. That's the climax, the decision that counts. But suppose that movie started when the space battle began. And so Luke's flying around, people are exploding and so forth. And then he goes down into the trench and he's going after it. And Obi-Wan says, trust the Force, Luke. And he trusts the Force and blows up the Death Star. That wouldn't be a very good story. What makes it work is all the stuff that comes before then, where Luke first encounters Obi-Wan and he talks to Obi-Wan and they go into the city and Obi-Wan defends Luke from the bad guy in the barn, and they go through all of this stuff, and Obi-Wan teaches him things and Obi-Wan shows him how to do things. He builds up a relationship of trust in Obi-Wan and confidence in the Force. And that's what makes the final decision meaningful. But it's all those little small events leading up to it that allow it to make sense. And that's what we have to do in our story worlds. We don't give the player a simple decision. Do you shoot the bad guy or do you let him shoot you? Lots and lots of little decisions. So it has to be long. And that is the problem. In fact, that has always been a problem with interactive storytelling. There's a concept in nuclear physics called critical mass. And in fact, that phrase has been used by people for other purposes. But the basic concept is you can't have a nuclear firecracker. You can't make a nuclear bomb that small. A nuclear bomb must have a minimum size. Below that minimum size, it just won't go bang. It'll just go fizzle. And so you got to have it at least this big. And that's big enough to blow up a city. Well, interactive storytelling is the same way. A story must be at least this big. If it's smaller, it's not really a story. Or perhaps we should say, it's a story for children. Even children's stories can be very long. So you really have to, we have to accept this fact. And there's a fundamental difference with gaming. We're not giving you lots of great decisions that, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. We're not giving you a lot of these crucial decisions at a fast pace. We're giving you a lot of small decisions building up to something. So this is going to be a problem for you and for the audience. And it's just something you have to get used to. We could create an online wiki where we give well, I don't think we need a wiki. We could just rely on Thaddeus, although Thaddeus is a little clumsy to use. If somebody would like to suggest a better medium for group discussion, the problem is in organizing it. That is, we want a system where the threads are, where you can figure out where to go to find the answer you want. I will put that question up to the group and again, use Thaddeus for now. So if you want to propose, put it in.
A wiki would be just to write how to use Wumpus. It's like a software booklet, but it's online.
Yeah.
And everybody can write for specifics, like for example, you could have a page for encounters, a page that explains what's a blending operator, a page that explains, like a website. But
here's
Slack,
the problem.
The Thomas Corral suggestion to use Slack is good. Slack is like, it's like a message board, but it's organized in channels, and you can create as many channels as you want. And so you can have video like we have here. You could use text, and you could use a voice, and everything is recorded and it's used on server. It's pretty cool.
The biggest difference about Slack is that you can create posts, and those posts are its own tree of conversation. So you have several different trees of conversation separated by topics, which can be searched very easily in a search bar.
Okay, what I'm going to suggest, there is a section on Thaddeus for administrative topics, and I'm going to suggest that we have a debate in that section on whether we should move to a different platform and the various arguments for and against. Let me warn you, though, that in the case of a wiki, there's only one person right now who can write that wiki. And if I'm writing the wiki, I'm not working on Wumpus and I'm not working on Le Mort d'Arthur. In fact, this is a point my wife made.
But if you work on a wiki, you can teach people how to use Wumpus. So it's better to teach people how to fish than giving them one big fish.
Well, there's already a lot of material on my website and in the document I include with Wumpus. And the question is, how much material do people need? So
you might want to create a better hub with all the writings on your website regarding the encounter editor, because it seems like you have multiple sections
that's
devoted
a good
to
point.
that.
Let me write that down.
Like if you drill down, if you go to library and see, I don't even know where it is, design diaries, and then Sappho, that has several articles on an earlier version. But then if you go to the Encounter System Technology section, that has 3 articles, and they're like 2 different sections on the same thing. So
what I would do really is just create a page called Wumpus Resources, and then you have a bunch of links. So that won't take a lot of work. Let's see, beginner's mode version of, oh God, make it even simpler. I have been brutal. I have, just been slashing and ripping stuff out. Oh boy. Blends and personality models are even more. Well, there is one way to simplify the personality model, and that's just to have a single personality trait, which is bad, good, and p-bad good. And then you wouldn't need any blends. The problem is every decision would be based solely on p-bad good, and so there wouldn't be any decision making.
The idea is more we have all the variables that we have right now, but they are hidden, and the beginner user messes around with more simplified versions of those variables so that we can infer and decide for that user what would happen, so that at least that person can get the taste of how it would be like to create a story world, so that eventually that person can grow to use the expert version.
Okay, so now I'm doing the Mort d'Arthur, improved version of Wumpus, Wiki, and another version of Wumpus for beginners. Anybody want to prioritize those?
I think you could give some tasks of these 4 projects to persons that work for you. You could, I don't know the word in English, but you can delegate.
Yeah, but who's in a position to do any of that work right now? Who could make a simpler version of Wumpus?
Speaking of delegation and making other versions of Wumpus, have you been able to check out the version of the editor that I built in Godot?
No, I have not, because I don't want to import that stuff in. Because in all honesty, I do not trust large software systems that include animation. This goes all the way back to Adobe Flash Player. Those things are iffy. And
what sort of animation does it include?
Well, the Godot engine itself includes a lot. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and it doesn't import any of that. But if it's in there, I don't know. What does Godot, when I studied Godot, it looked like it's this huge monster engine, and you download this thing, and then your project might only grab a few pieces of it, but you've still got this monster lurking around inside your machine. And I'm very conservative about this kind of thing.
Okay,
which, by the way, is the reason why the hard disk drive failure I've had is the first serious failure I've had in 35 years of using Macs. So anyway, I'm very conservative, but I was able to infer a great deal from your description, and I have no objection to your engine. Yeah, maybe if you want to make a scaled-down version of Wumpus, by all means, go ahead.
Is it difficult to get funding for this kind of a project? Because if you can get funding, it could maybe put more energy into the Wumpus and get it kind of finished to build a tool for story builders.
Yes. Okay, so now we've got Le Mort d'Arthur, Wiki, new Wumpus, a new platform, and let's go looking for money, which takes hundreds of hours. I've been down these paths, and you can spend. Getting funding would take more time than all of the other things put together. Now, of course, we could do Patreon or Kickstarter or something like that, and that's nowhere near as much work. Although you still, especially on Kickstarter, for example, with the Storytron technology, we did a Kickstarter thing for that. We dedicated, I'd say we spent a bit under 100 hours just preparing the video for the Kickstarter. And we still didn't get funding. So, you know,
Yeah.
these things.
For Kickstarter, it's a difficult task because you need a marketing team, a budget team, someone who goes out for money, and you need a video team to make the video. But most of all, you need, the most important thing is a prototype that gives people a desire to play the game, that says, this is our software. And that's what we are doing now, trying to make a prototype. So before asking for money, we need to prove that the thing is working and it's cool to play.
Yeah, it's not time for funding yet. Billy mentions GitHub. Yes, that is a standard system for sharing code. But again, we're not ready to share code for the same reason as everything. We're at a very early stage of development, and I've been down this path many times. And right now, we're just trying to feel out the project and make sure everybody who's participating has a feel for it. Right now, nobody does except me. So, you know, this is, we need to go through these first steps. Here's an example of a fan-made wiki. Yeah, that's, fans can definitely do good wikis because they've played the game a lot and they know a lot about it. Right now, this group is still just beginning to experiment with Wumpus, and so I doubt any of you, well, let me ask, is there anybody right now who's who feels competent to write up a wiki entry on how the blend operator works?
I do.
Okay, good. How about the personality model?
I think I could probably do that too. I think a lot of the basics, a lot of us have down, because you've been writing about the personality model and all that stuff for years.
Yeah, this is all the culmination. I mean, there's an awful lot of earlier work.
I think if Sasha begins the wiki, once something is written, everybody has an objection and has something to say. So that's start. We just need the first input of Sasha saying, blending operator is this. And the wiki function that we create a discussion that says, I don't agree, or I agree, this is a good idea. And then it starts rolling, but we need the first, how do you say? So first, Sasha will put a flag on it and says, this is my blending, and everybody will start.
As a reference work, at some point, you need somebody to go through and edit all of those comments and rewrite a standard version for everybody. You can't ask the user to read the entire debate.
No, there's a debate only if there's a debate to be having. Like for example, you already put a lot of, let's say, official canon description of what is a blending operator. We just have to copy paste and to put it in a format on the wiki and organize it. So you click through it and you have the more information.
Well, there has to be an editor. There has to be somebody who makes a final decision. And of course, everybody will argue with the editor. So
no, it's Wikipedia is community based, and you have some moderators, but you have also, you know, if no one is saying the information is false, maybe it's because the information is true.
Yeah.
Only maybe.
Okay. So let me summarize what I think we have right now. I need to reorganize the material on Erasmus with a central page about Wumpus that has links to all of the supporting pages. I will also put the download for the latest version of Wumpus on that page. So there's one place you go to get everything you need. In the meantime, you guys have the responsibility to argue out what platform you want to use for further discussions. For the moment, we'll use Thaddeus for that platform. And we'll try to find a better platform. I agree, Thaddeus is kind of clumsy to use right now, although I suppose it doesn't have a tree structure though, does it? It doesn't, what you really need is a tree structure for the discussions so that you could have broad categories and then subcategories within it.
Right.
Does
sense.
anyone know of a platform with a tree structure?
Well, there's PHP BB, just standard forums.
Okay, well, again, a tree structure requires an editor to set up the tree. And that in turn, we'll need to assign somebody to that task. The other responsibility you guys have is to continue messing around with Wumpus. I have I'm working with a current version that it fixes a few minor bugs in it. Unfortunately, with my computer having died, I really can't do any programming work this next week. The shop says they'll probably need a week to get to it. So I'm going to be offline in terms of programming for about a week. I can still use my laptop, but I'm a little nervous about jumping from one machine to another. And the laptop is not as gutsy as my desktop.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, sure.
In the reactions column, there's boxes for up to three reactions. Below that, there's a green box, blending change.
Yep.
And that has 3 sliders. Do those 3 sliders correspond to the 3 reactions, or does that relate to any one of those reactions?
No, those are meant to be how the antagonist changes his perception of the protagonist in response to the option that the protagonist selected. So if the protagonist selects option B, then for option B, there are 3 sliders that show how much the antagonist will increase his P bad good. Will he be pleased or displeased by this action? Will his trust increase or decrease? And then timid dominant. How will that change? And it defaults to 0. In other words, the default condition is that your actions have no effect. But presumably the artist will enter those values so that and in fact, that's the substance of the game. That is, you make options and they have small effects on the perception of the antagonist towards the protagonist, and those small effects add up over the course of the game, and towards the end. And in fact, that's exactly what happens in rom-com. The player does a variety of things. Basically, nothing really happens until they meet for lunch. And when they meet for lunch, the player's choices will affect the girl's P bad good towards him. And then at the end, when he says, "So let's meet again," she makes her decision based on the value of P bad good.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing when I click different options, the sliders are all different. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We're running out of time, so does anybody have anything they want to get in here?
Yes. In Thaddeus, you mentioned that you wanted us to think about ways to get people interested in Wumpus. I believe our current conversation went a completely different direction, right? Like getting people into Wumpus will be something very much in the future. but I still believe we could at least start this conversation on Thaddeus, because I kind of got thinking about that problem a little bit.
I agree. We don't want to be bringing new people in right now, because what we've got is so ill-defined. It's hard for people. I mean, you guys are having problems making recommendations or, you know, coming up with ideas and proposals because this is all so strange. So we need to get a cadre, a core group of people. Then those people will firm up everything enough that we'll be able to start talking to the rest of the world saying, hey, here's this really neat thing. I think one conclusion I'm drawing is that Le Mort d'Arthur is really the demo we need. And that means we're going to do a long preparation period. This is not going to be, we dump Wumpus on the world on January 1st, and by April 1st, we have 1 million story worlds. I think we can reject that possibility. So,
I agree.
This is going to be a longer development cycle.
Yeah, I was thinking about the video lectures that you told me about on YouTube. So your market is it women? Is it the end player?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. The audio was a little blurry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, who's going to play my story world? Is it female audience or male audience?
Oh, I'm expecting the Le Mort d'Arthur will be for, you know, the whole world. We're not going to restrict it. I mean, we're hoping we'll reach a large audience with it. And of course, we won't have the advertising to really reach lots and lots of people. But still, the intention of the design is that Le Mort d'Arthur will be available to everybody. In fact, what I'm expecting is to put the engine on, basically you can play it on the web. That will require further technical work. And I may need some help in that. It depends on how I organize it.
I wanted to understand something. So we have the editor that you're working on, Chris, right? And we're still kind of like looking into what we're going to be using engine-wise based off of what the editor is doing. I saw that discussion on Thaddeus, but I didn't know like where that was going yet.
There's already an engine in Wumpus.
Okay, so you have like a play button.
Yeah, to run the rehearsal, you got to have an engine. So, yeah. In fact, I did a lot of programming work separating out everything so that the engine could be isolated. And so, yeah, I could put together a standalone engine very quickly. However, it's Java, and we can't ask users to download Java. So the whole thing has to be rewritten in JavaScript, or we can install the Java on the server and go through all of that crap. So I'm not sure how to proceed on that point. For now, we'll keep everything standalone Java, but at some point before we go public, we've got to migrate it so that it can be played directly on the web.
Do you think that you could stick the Java that you're working on in a public repository? Would that be too annoying? Like, let's say that I wanted to, because I'm okay at Java, and probably some of us are, that we wanted to do stuff that would help. How do you feel about that? Or because I'm fine with Java myself.
Okay, not yet, because although another thing I spent months doing was, as part of reorganizing all the code, I was trying to make it easier to understand and commenting everything and so forth. So it is a lot more accessible now. However, at this point, I'm not sure about the directions in which to go. And so, yes, we want to go public or we want to make the source code available at some point when we know where we want to go. At this point, the only thing that I know it really needs is some way to reorganize the sequencing of encounters, that is, the way they're presented in the encounter list. When you've got 200 encounters, they end up being in sort of oddball order, and you'd like to be able to drag and drop to reorder them.
Someone needs to let your tree control be reordered based off of dragging stuff around up and down.
Yeah, and I looked into the Java stuff on drag and drop. Yeah, sure, you can do it. You've seen it. It's Swing is no fun, but I mean, you get it done, but you don't like it afterwards. That's just how Swing is, right? Yeah. Well, we can also discuss that on Thaddeus. Thaddeus should be our primary means of communication off hours. I have no sense of possession over the code. I just don't want it. I don't want people running off in random directions before we know where we want to go. So first we decide where we want to go, then we go there. Okay, we are just about out of time. Any last questions or comments?
The JavaScript interpreter, the web player, won't be a problem because my system already includes a JavaScript version of an interpreter.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, that might make it cleaner or easier, faster. Okay, then I will see you guys on Thaddeus, and I hope to see some of you on Tuesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.